Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We went to movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained best pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the favorite bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweetie are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey.
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Santa's podcast, your favorite podcast where two sweetie sisters talk about their favorite flicks from childhood. I'm Sweetie with a Y.
And I'm Sweetie with an IE.
And it's summertime.
Summertime. Let's just sit back and unwind.
I was gonna sing other summer songs and I couldn't get the LFO lyrics in time, so I gave up.
Well, we should do a different summer
awkward.
song every episode. This is the Fresh Prince DJ
Summertime.
Jazzy
Which
Jeff.
I think we sing that every summer on this podcast. I think
School is out. Just having a ball. Just me wiping my car down.
Anyways, so even though the actual first day of summer, I don't think has happened yet, we hit like 90 degrees a couple of days ago.
Solid 85.
Happening? I think my little thing said 90.
It was so
or
hot.
89 at least.
So hot the other day.
Not prepared for that.
No, not at all.
I need to rethink my whole fan structure. I have to maybe save up for an air conditioning unit.
And like
they're
this
so
is
pricey.
Oh, totally. It's an investment, but you'll have those for a while, hopefully. So that's the thing with the like New England summers. It seems to be we have like a day of spring and then it's like 90, and there's no like ease into it, which is such a shame because I feel like 75 is like my optimal personal temperature. And you get maybe like a half a day of it, and then they're like, scorcher! It sucks. And like your body isn't ready. Like your body isn't ready. It isn't like physically, internally ready. It's not ready. Like you're not tan. I mean, we're talking about like end of May. It's
God.
it's
So ghosty.
yeah, it's really, really weird.
It's interesting about your preferred temperature. I think mine is like closer to 65 maybe?
Oh, I'm a 75er.
Maybe
for
like
sure.
70?
75.
I can't be too hot.
Low
When I'm
humidity,
actually,
light breeze.
yeah. When I'm actually sweating, I get sad. I get sad about it. So I can't have that yet.
Yeah, 80 gets tough for me. 85, ooh, 90, no.
Doctor. Hey, so it's summer and we got a slate of cool summer movies. Also, it's my pick. Yeah. Was it supposed to be my pick? Mm-hmm. Right. So Sweetie got 2 picks in a row because she did her regular week and then she was like, hey, it's my birthday week, isn't it? I get to pick again. Even though technically we should have done the week before, which is already your week as your birthday movie. I don't know what we were thinking. And then I was like, well, okay, but then, I'm supposed to go twice. So now I get to go twice. So my first one is a real crowd pleaser. Maybe. But it's like one of those weird movies that I watched a lot. And I have no explanation of why that is other than I must have been like really bored or I really liked it or like some weird combination of the two. And that movie, folks, is Weekend at Bernie's. Why are you saying it with me anymore? We always do we both say it. That's the thing. Weekend at Bernie's
2. Okay, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
How do you think movie studios decide whether it's going to be a 2 number or 2 Roman numeral?
I don't know. It's like something with the marketing.
I know.
Or how do they decide if it's going to be like a witty subtitle or like a pun?
I don't know.
It's all in the marketing, man.
I love it. For the
marketing.
record, this is a Roman numeral. Did you think it was a Roman numeral? Do you think it was a number? It felt like a number to me.
Oh, in my head, I was envisioning a number. But now when I think about the cover, I can see the Roman numeral too because it's like island font.
Oh, yeah.
Or something.
And the worst part about it is that like, they're not at Bernie's in this one. So it's not like actually a real, they couldn't, it's a franchise,
Well,
if you want to
that's not
call
how
it.
it works.
I know that's not how sequels work, but they're not at Bernie's anymore. I just put WAB II in my notes for the record.
Me too, but that's what that's what I called it yesterday. That's what I
Okay.
called it yesterday.
I was like, I'm going to put WAB II in my notes, and I hope when I look back on these notes, because we save our notebook, so we'll like look at them. I don't know. I'll encounter them occasionally. We've gone through like how many notebooks do you think? 2 or 3?
3 or 4?
I'll stumble upon one and I'll be like, oh my God, these notes are so funny. So I hope that, when we look in these notebooks in a couple of years, if we're still doing the podcast, I'll be like, WAB II. What was that?
We'll know, believe me.
The WAB.
Yeah. So Weekend at Bernie's 2, the sequel. I'm not sure many people were craving for this sequel. So, I mean, we weren't around. I mean, we were around, but we weren't
So,
like the age of people.
Do you
who I
remember
think-
when the original was? If you want to toss around some dates
I'm
here.
not the date. I'm not the date person.
All right.
You're the dates person.
So if you remember, Weekend at Bernie's 2, just tail end of the 80s, 1989. So shoehorned right into the end of that decade. And then this one came along in 1993. So a good 4-year gap between Amazing Original and then this sequel. You're right. Did this need a sequel? I mean, I think it was a pretty popular movie. People really got a kick of that movie. And if, not to toot our own horn, but go back and listen to that episode because we had some solid things to say, very smart things to say about what that movie meant about defining the culture of that time and why, people really got a kick out of that movie. So
Listen,
we thought
we're smart girls. We're smart ladies. Smart women.
this one, not so much. I think they're just riding the coattails.
Well, I think there's 2 kinds of sequels. One which is purely for monetary gain. So I would put Weekend at Bernie's 2 in that camp
Totally.
probably.
I think most sequels are.
Sure. No, but I think that there's also the sequels that it's an actual story people are invested in and actually want to know what happens next.
Well, right. So you're talking about A, continuation of story, B, I want more money. Yes.
Yeah.
Which I agree.
But at the end of the first one, Bernie is still dead.
Yeah.
So it's not we're wow, I wonder what happens to Bernie after this.
Yeah.
No one thought that. Everyone was like,
Right.
well, that's it.
Well, that's it.
the
Right.
end of the story.
Total moneymaker. This isn't like a Back to the Future or Star Wars or ones that have legit stories
those
continuing.
are trilogies.
Yeah.
So
Right,
I don't
exactly.
know if we can count that.
But
But-
I will say what I appreciate with this one was that it was they left off right as soon as the other movie ends, which I honestly didn't remember. I thought it was a completely different deal. This movie ends basically right where the other one picks off.
But not really, because
starts
they're
where the other one
ends.
ends.
Because they're in the Hamptons or whatever. And then they should be at the police station in the Hamptons, not in New York City. Why would
But his body gets brought back to New York City. It seems and then they're dealing with the fallout of
I don't think that's how it
finding
works.
the money.
I
and
think
stuff.
you have to if it's a dead body that shows up, you have to do a murder investigation where it happened. But whatever.
Whatever.
But yeah, I didn't realize that either. I
No.
thought he was just chilling out, pun intended, in the morgue for a couple weeks or whatever,
Right.
and then they decided to reuse.
Same. So I was
I don't know why. Yeah.
I was very unclear, but it's funny when this movie picks off because obviously it's 4 years later. But also, Andrew McCarthy and Jonathan Silverman,
Silverman?
are incredibly tan already. They're tan when the movie starts. Oh, because did they just get back from
were
the
in the
Hamptons?
Hamptons.
Oh, okay. This makes sense now. Okay, I'm why are they so tan when they just get to the Virgin Islands? Okay, anyway, never mind. So, what is our history of seeing this movie? Good question.
Probably
Well-
a TV, a Cinemax.
There was this network called the UPN.
Oh my god, no! I remember seeing this
Yeah.
on HBO or Cinemax or something because I remember seeing
Okay.
the boobs in the beach scene at the end.
I'm going to talk
And
about
being
that. Don't spoil it because I need to chat about that
Yeah.
later. I think we loved, as we said, if you ever get to listen to the original Weekend at Birdie's episode we did, we loved the first one and we would watch it a request at the video store kind of a fan base for us for that particular one. This one I don't think we ever rented, but yes, it was played on TV, and we'd be like, "Yeah, Weekend at Bernie's too."
I mean, I wouldn't put it past myself to
rent
not request this, but I just remember watching it and like being by myself and watching it. Like, I don't know, maybe because I was like, hee, naked people, and like thought it was funny or something.
Well,
but I just enjoyed it for some reason, and I'm not sure why.
So this came out in 1993 makes me think that, okay, so I was only 10 years old. That's like really young. It makes me think that we maybe watched like the original a lot sooner than I thought we did. Because like if the sequel came out in 93, I feel like we would have already seen the original.
I feel like we were like at least 2 to 3 years behind when the movie actually.
So we probably saw the original in 93, like stumbled upon that on TV, and then like kind of watched the hell out of it, and then was a happy moment, I guess, when we went to the video store one day and we were like, sequel, yes!
No, I think that it must have been a situation where they would play both
Back
of
to
them
back?
on TV, like one after the other. And maybe we learned about them that way.
You know, this is, I know like, this is where I would want a time machine. I know people would want time machines for like much greater things, like, yay, let's go back and like kill Hitler. I would want to go in like a time machine and be like, okay, when did we first see Weekend at Bernie's? When did we see Weekend at Bernie's 2? Because this fascinates me. Like when did we kind of have vague recollections of like when we stumbled on stuff, but most of the time we like don't know at all.
You know, that would be handy.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. Don't know why. Not sure.
No, it was still like pretty funny today. Like I got a kick out of this movie. It's totally ridiculous, but like it was freaking funny. So the original cast returns for the sequel, as we have said. We've covered a lot of sequels, and we always say that a real sweet spot for sequels is you got to have the same cast members. You can't do that weird switcheroo when you're like, oh, okay, well we're gonna do the sequel, but we're gonna like not have any of the same actors. Dumb and Dumber.
But we're still going to be the same characters, and we're just going to go with it.
Yeah, crazy.
Never works.
Never works. So returning is Andrew McCarthy, Jonathan Silverman as the two leads. Terry Kaiser returns as Bernie. Has way more to do in this one. Honestly, fab job. That guy was put to work.
Was that him, or was that like a stunt person? He would get himself up off the ground, not using his like arms, and just like
he knew how to dance with his butt.
I do remember that vividly. Those like parachute pants or like whatever.
Oh yeah, tracksuit.
Tracksuit. Yeah. And that butt. Ugh.
Yeah. Who knows? It definitely could be like a stuntman that's so like easy to do because he was kind of like. You obviously couldn't see his face. And
but I agree. His character arc has developed.
Yeah, so much
as
better.
a dead man.
Yeah.
He's a much cooler, better person.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he's back. He's back again.
He's back in a big way.
And, and
Still
they're the only returning people.
Right.
All
like
new.
What happened to Gwen from the first one? Guess that relationship did not last.
I guess they didn't make it.
And there is like what I love about this one is that there was like a glimpse of a love interest that like basically quickly got like tossed out the window, and that was awesome.
I wrote down, I'm so excited. I'm so happy for Larry. He finally gets his moment in the sun. It was like, wah, wah.
Yeah.
Okay, but how? But if this happens exactly like after the first one. After the first one, he and Gwen seemed fine. So maybe they are still together, and they're just like, let's reconvene after a couple.
I don't know.
Days.
He
gets into shenanigans again.
He went under that conga line with that girl in the tight dress pretty fast. So
I mean, they just met. They're not like exclusive.
Yeah, that's true. Right? What were they? The Weekend at Bernie's original? What did it take place over a weekend? It was a weekend. Hello. So in addition to the cast, so that some of the new people are Barry Botswick. Oh, miss
who is
him.
not named Barry Bonds. As much as I tried to talk myself out of it, I was like, "What is his name again?" And the only thing I had was Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's
What
else
the other
is
thing
he
was
in?
in? I know. Jimmy was like, "What else is he in?" And I looked all over his IMDb, and I couldn't like figure out anything that really stuck out. I don't know if it's a show. I mean, he's like still working, so it's such a pain when people are still working because then you have to go through like the entire like 2020 to 2010 of all their work.
Spin City.
Yeah, which I didn't watch, but
he didn't he take over from
He was
no.
he was the
He was, like, the
mayor,
boss or something.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
the boss, right? Yeah. And then I don't know if you picked up on this, sweetie, but our friend Patty Mayonnaise.
Obviously I did. But I don't know if I did when I was little is what gets me, even though I was probably the biggest Doug fan in the world.
I definitely
and still
didn't either.
am. I don't know, even though she sounds exactly like
same.
Patty Mayonnaise.
I know.
But maybe we just think that because she's on Orange is the New Black now, and we're like, oh, okay.
Well, that's why I knew when I was glancing over the people in the credits, I saw her picture and I was like, oh yeah, that lady.
Okay.
So
Wait, update. You didn't mention that Barry Bostwick was in The Parent Trap 3. That's probably where we know him from.
the one with the triplets.
And Parent
Yes.
Trap, The Hawaiian Honeymoon.
That is what it is.
So,
That is what it is.
Get out of town. Yeah, that's it. Wow, good stuff. So, anyways, what was you saying?
So Patty Mayonnaise is just like a small role as like the
Small
tour
cameo.
guide in like a underwater submarine kind of a thing.
And did you catch
Yeah.
Warwick
Yes,
Davis? Okay. So, what is his name? I like can see it. I can like see it on the page. But the guy who played Warwick Davis on CSI, the original CSI in Las Vegas, is that like skinny guy in the beginning who's like, "Don't mess with the moob." What's the
Momo?
priestess's name?
Momo?
The
Mobu?
He's like, she'll turn. That's what she did to the last person, and he like points to the goat.
But she's
That's
like
him.
the security guard for the mafia guy or whatever, right?
Well, he seemed to be very casually dressed up in the beginning, and then at the end he had a suit.
Yeah.
And he seemed like a different person.
Yeah, I think he's the security guard for the mob.
Oh. But yeah, and fun little cameos. I loved it. I loved that.
Yeah, I know. I love that too. Yeah. So, but yeah, no one except kind of the two main stars, but they reprise their roles and they're equally kind of the same. You know, Andrew McCarthy really yucks it up as Larry, who I just like get a kick out of that guy. Like, can't stand him, but also like I love him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I remembered feeling like he was annoying when I was little, but now I really appreciate. I think I appreciate his humor more for some reason
There's
as I'm older. But
we'll talk about it. But like so there's this part where the Jonathan Silverman character, whose name is Larry and Richard, gets like is been force fed this like potion that the voodoo people give him, and then he's gonna like die by sundown. So then they come back and he's like, Richard, don't be so depressed. Like you still have a lot of time to live. Good thing it isn't the winter because you would be dead already. Like I just feel like Larry's like so upbeat, which is what I like love about him. And like like maybe he's a con man and he's like kind of a Guido and like maybe kind of sketchy, but like I don't know, his like upbeat nature really shows. Well, why is he wearing a gold chain?
Just what people wore. I don't know. My favorite part in that scene is when he just like, as soon as she says that, he like hugs Richard.
Yeah.
He like grabs him and he's like, it's good stuff. But I mean, I had fun. It's an entertaining movie. It's so ridiculous, but it's just, I don't hate it. Let's say.
No,
it's
and I feel like there wasn't. Okay, the main thing about this movie and which people have a complaint about the original is that like the slapstick gets like old, right? So you have like this, the whole thing is that he's a dead body and they can let him do like all this stuff. So for us, that wasn't old because I always thought that was like so funny. And like we said, like there was certain like smart stuff about that first film, kind of I think making a commentary about just that like lifestyle of the Hamptons or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how do you approach a sequel like that and still make it like not just about him just like bonking his head everywhere and like his nuts like on a coconut, like a palm tree or whatever. So I think like the voodoo element was like kind of creative and like an interesting way to make him like still be able, like getting him to move around. So it wasn't about using him as like a dummy. Like the other one, they really had to like use their smarts to figure out, okay, how can it look like he's alive, which they do in this to a point, but they realize they can't lean on it forever. And I can't believe I'm discussing like why like Breeze 2 is like a smart, brilliant film, but I think they like tried. I think they tried and did like okay at it.
Kind of. I don't know if it's smart so much as they just like were like, we can do whatever we want, probably.
Yeah.
There's this video game called Scribble Knots, which is like you have to get through these levels, and you can just like you write a word into the box, and then it like creates whatever you write. So if you like have to get through a door, you can be like tractor, and then a tractor appears, and you just mow it down. So that's what this movie reminds me of. Is like they can just be like, "What do you want?" It's like the skit with Key and Peele where the Gremlins 2 one.
Yeah.
Same thing where it's like, "What should we? How can we make this work?" And they're like, "I know, it's easy." And then they just like made up shit.
Yeah.
But it is. I think it's random as fuck.
Me too.
But I mean, we'll get into it. It's pretty funny. I'm excited. I hope I remember it. I meant to write down the like path of events because it's not super linear to me.
It isn't.
But we'll try our best.
Good
basically.
luck.
Yeah. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready? Okay.
It's time for the sweetie synopsis. Yeah.
Sweeties.
Am I the only one alive who wasn't in the conga line, Rich?
Good. I wasn't sure if you would have one, so I wrote down one just in case. Mine was, do me a favor, blow me.
Blow me? Who says that?
Larry, when
I
he's
know.
like,
He's all the best
when they
lines.
get mad at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Larry and Richard have returned from the Hamptons and have to identify Bernie
Lomax.
Lomax. I was like, Murloc? Bernie Lomax. Yeah. Bernie Lomax in the city morgue. I just wanted to shout out to city morgues in the 90s, 80s, and 90s. They seemed kind of magical. They're like these old buildings, you know? It's like, I thought they was just like hospitals. I didn't think we had like specific buildings for morgue. There's always morgues in movies and TV shows,
Yeah,
right?
I know.
Have you ever seen a morgue? No.
Well, hopefully you
thought
never have
they
to.
were just hospitals.
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful. I think they are usually on the bottoms of hospitals, though.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought that's what a morgue was,
Yeah.
but these are always like standalone buildings. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Is there a city morgue? Good question.
right. But like like this one,
'Cause
Men in
that's-
Black too.
Right, because
That one.
that's where like, okay, so the hospital obviously is a morgue because a majority of people die at a hospital. But if you are just like a dead body on a street, yeah, you get brought to like the city morgue, right?
It makes sense.
You
but
don't
like,
you get
what
brought
about
to the hospital.
But like, do suburbs have city
No,
morgues?
that right. Like I think you would have to go to like the nearest one or the county one.
It's awfully complicated
I know,
to die
I
in
know.
on here. Anyways, so they're at the morgue and they're like, "Yep, that's Bernie." They answer some questions, I guess, from the morgue guy, and Larry pretends to be Bernie's nephew because the guy's like, "Oh, we need someone to take his personal effects." So Larry signs up for that right away because he's always looking for like the next best thing, even though at this point they still think they're going to get rewarded for the good job they did, like catching the fact that Bernie was, you know, scumming money off the company and stole like $2 million or whatever. So they're all excited. So they go they go to their office and there's like a couple of stern gentlemen. One is Barry Bostwick, whose name is like Hummel or something. And I missed like what his job title was, but basically he's there to not believe Larry and Richard's story about Bernie trying to kill them.
Right.
I just don't get what the motivation is for not believing that. Was he on Bernie's side?
I don't know, but they
Is he
don't
part of the
want,
ruse?
and they don't want anyone to know, because if you remember from the original movie, they found that there was like a discrepancy in the books, and it was because Bernie had stole that money. So this movie then reveals that like Bernie was using that money to like it was like money he was laundering for the mob, it sounded like. So either those guys were like in on it and like didn't want anyone else to know. So then they fired them, I guess. Like Richard and
weird.
Larry just keep thinking like them finding this money is going to like be like a promotion worthy when it's like,
Right.
okay, let's remember for the first one, you finding this money, people tried to kill you. Like,
Right. Like,
this is not going to be a promotion. This is a reason to leave this job. This is not like they're just, I mean, they're like little bums. Like they don't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah. But so yeah, they get fired and they're like all sad or whatever. Meanwhile, back on the U.S. Virgin Islands, there is a voodoo ritual led by the Mobu, who's the priestess. And these two guys from New York show up, and they think they're coming to a party. But it turns out it's actually this ritual, and they're being asked to carry out the main part of the ritual. So the cartel guys or whatever are trying. They know that Bernie has like a shit ton of money hidden somewhere, so they need to know where that is. So this is the part where I'm saying they just like came up with what. There's no thing that makes a logical line to this, but for some reason the cartel guys are like, I know. We'll get a voodoo priestess to resurrect Bernie from the dead and have him lead us to the treasure.
Right.
So that's the plan. And for some reason, these two guys from New York are elected to carry out like this very important task of carrying out the spell, which also doesn't make sense to me. It's just like, it seems like a lot of work, and they had to get a lot of weird things. And it just seems like an awful lot to ask of people who don't know anything about voodoo or like whatever.
Right.
And who were there because they thought it was a party. So those guys are named Charles and Henry. So they get some instructions, right? So what are the instructions? Or what does she tell them to do? Basically?
So she gives
this
them.
part, I LOL.
Yeah, she like gives them a voodoo doll and says like, go and find this man in New York City, and like do this spell around him. And so the spell involves like goat blood and chickens and 118 candles and like
117.
Yeah, 117 candles. And so it's like this whole long list, but like I'm not really clear of how like they were able to like look at this voodoo doll and be like, this is Bernie, whatever. Yeah. No,
I know that
they
guy.
must have like got more info.
It was very indicative. He had like the little sunglasses.
Yeah, no, it was a great
the, like
voodoo
blue coat.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Here's my other question that I only thought of just now. Why are they keeping Bernie's sunglasses on him at all times in the morgue? Like, take off the things. Like, he should be naked and not have sunglasses on if this was real life. But obviously, we know it's not real life.
Oh yeah, right. But that's like just
anyways,
like the persona. Yeah,
they have no lead, I don't think. But if the cartel like sponsored this, I'm sure they told him it's Bernie Lomax.
Yeah, exactly.
So they like track down where he is. Right. So they go to our favorite place, the city morgue.
The city morgue.
And and then they find him. I don't know if they looked in all the drawers, like they opened them all up.
Yeah.
Like, is this him? Is this him? Is this him? No. They get him out. They try to wheel him out. He like flies out the window, shenanigans ensues. We should mention though, important fact, that they were given a live chicken in a burlap sack to tote back with them to New York City. The Virgin Islands are not very close to New York City. So it's like a decent plane trip because it's near like Puerto Rico, right? Mm-hmm. Like to the east. And I'm just confused, like how they got the chicken back. It was fine in the burlap sack for whatever, and no one questioned it. I mean, I know flight regulations were like very blasé in the 90s, but this just is too much for me.
Maybe it was drugged or something. Yeah, maybe it was drugged. No.
Maybe.
But yeah, you're right. It was the 90s, like, were they checking any bags? So, parallel plot. So, you have these guys, like, coming up to New York to get Bernie's body to then put this voodoo spell on it. Oh, sorry. So, the whole point is that he knows where the money that he was laundering for the cartel, apparently he, like, hid it somewhere. And so, they're going to put this voodoo spell on the body, and that body's going to well, I don't think they know yet, but he's going to lead them to the, like, basically come back to life and lead them to the money. Parallel plot line. Larry and Richard are back in this game because Larry has this idea that and figures out that Bernie had because he got his personal effects, right? So there was a safety deposit key. And he has Richard, they go back to the office even though they got fired, and they do some research and they figure out that he had a bank account in the Virgin Islands and then a safety deposit box and like a personal and something account or something like that. So they know personal entry account. So they know like he's been hiding something in that safety deposit box. So they're like, okay, we need to get down there, but we're going to need
and a personal
Bernie to
entry account. Yeah, personal entry account means that only that person can get it out.
Right. So they're like, okay, let's do what we did before. Pretend, wear old hats at this. Let's pretend Bernie's still alive. So they are also going to the morgue to go to go look for him. So so this is happening like while the other guys are coming to steal the body. So the other guys successfully steal the body. They perform the voodoo, but unfortunately, like right before they're gonna perform the voodoo, the chicken escapes somehow, and like
a guy opens. They're in like a bathroom of a porn movie theater, and like a guy opens the door, and the guy's like, "Hey man, what the hell?" And the chicken runs out into the theater, and then they try to find it, and I'm pretty sure they do find it.
They do,
but
then
weird
that guy
guy's
won't let it
stroking
go.
But then on this rewatch, I was like, was that his chicken? But why didn't Henry or
I don't know.
Charles be like, that's my chicken?
Right. So they just give up and they're like, well, like let's like use any bird. So at first they like stand in front of like rotisserie chickens in like a storefront of like a New York storefront, and he's like, yo, it's gotta be alive. And then he's like, yo, there's birds everywhere. So they decide to just use a pigeon because there's so many pigeons in New York, right? So like, oh, that's that's the same thing. So they use a pigeon instead. So that's not quite what the voodoo lady said. So the spell goes like a little bit off because I think the spell was supposed to make it so like he would just be alive, like constantly, like he would be constantly awake and lead them directly to the money,
like a zombie. And I guess I thought when I was little, and maybe until just this moment, I really thought that the spell was he could only walk when the music was playing.
But no, it was like a little hitch in it. So for some reason, using a pigeon meant that like he could only walk when music is playing. So they have this like a voodoo, like a boombox playing music, and they are able to figure this out.
I love that scene when they're dancing in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I think that is so funny.
So they figure that out. So they're like, okay, like this is a pain, but like we can make this work. So they start playing the music. They have to carry this boombox with them. It's like covered in candle wax with the 117 candles or whatever. And they take them on the subway. Not a great idea, right? Because the subway's a scary place in New York in 1993.
I mean, like, yeah, and it's not like these guys were visitors to New York. I'm pretty sure they lived in New York City. Like, they know not to leave a boombox unattended on the seat opposite you across a sea of people. So, yeah, this guy just fucking takes it and runs, and then they both get off the train, leave Bernie in the car, and try to go after the guy for, like, maybe 5 seconds. They try, I'd say, conservatively, okay, maybe 6 seconds. Right. But we know, as you would if you live in a city, that like those train doors, they are not staying open for long. Like those close pretty quickly, guys. And again, they should know that. But the doors closed, and there goes Bernie. He's gone. So at this point, I think they got arrested.
No, that's not what happened. So wait, the boombox gets stolen, and they leave Bernie in the subway. Yeah,
that's what I just said.
Oh, okay. So he's in the
train
subway
goes
car,
away, and Bernie's on it.
Okay, yeah. So, but then he's dead because there's no music.
He's been dead this whole time.
Right. But like, so he's not moving. So like the train stops running, and then these police find him, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is a dead body."
Yeah. So back to the morgue.
Okay.
So then the morgue guy's like, "Wait, I know this guy. Like, what happened?" And I forget. I don't think, obviously they don't figure it out. But then in walks in Larry and Richard with a suitcase, and they're ready to load up, old Bernie in the suitcase. So they had brought, I guess, their suitcases with them.
How
so
did they
dressed
get in
Bernie.
there?
I don't know. Another part
that's
that
the other
is
thing. Can you just eat, like, you just had two groups of people like wandering into a morgue and be able to take a body out?
It seems like it's just like the city morgue is like, it's the back door. You open it and you're in the morgue.
Right.
It's like not a.
I mean, I guess like, why would there be crazy security for a dead body? Dead bodies. It's not
who
like
knows? Yeah. So they start loading up, poor Bernie, stuffing him in the suitcase. He's quite pliable apparently after being dead. So again, not a ton of reference to decomposition, even though he would have started decomposing like hours after he died, basically.
But at this point, he's been dead like weeks. A week, at least. Right?
No, because if it was the weekend at Bernie's, so that was like he died on Friday, and then they were there Saturday and then Sunday, and then they come back to New York City on Sunday, like morning.
So this is Monday?
Night, whatever. Yeah, so this would be like a Monday, I guess.
Still,
because that's when they'd go back to the office.
4 days of body decomp, though, that's not great.
Right. unrealistic.
Well, I
But,
wonder
yeah,
if the voodoo spell made it like slightly like less.
seem like it because he's smelly when he gets out of the suitcase in St. Thomas.
I bet on an airplane. In the
So they take
fuselage?
him right. So they take him to St. Thomas again. Airport security questionable. I guess they did not X-ray bags at this time.
Okay. Also, I just want to say that like a body being folded into a suitcase, total PTSD. If anyone has ever seen The Americans, spoiler alert, there's a scene where they have to like shove somebody a suitcase and break their bones, and it's like one of the most challenging scenes I've ever watched on TV. It was so gross, and you know, obviously you don't see that in this one, but it's not easy to fit a person in a suitcase.
No. But
Second
he
of all,
very doughy.
Second of all, I want to go over suitcases for a hot second because remember when, there was just like the suitcase, which you had to pick up and take with you, right? Then they made rolly suitcases where just like, it was like a regular suitcase you would pick up, but like dinky wheels on the bottom. And then you had like a leash. So that was like the next phase of suitcases. And then it was only later that we have what we have now. Why did that take so long?
Well, not even. And then it was for a while the ones that just you tilted and rolled. And then the sideways roll where you didn't have to tilt it, I think is like the top.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just one of the great things about technology and innovation is just like it gets better and better.
So when I saw the scene when they have, it's basically the second phase of suitcase where it's like the one on the leash, which is like totally useless. Like it's not, and like there's
always fall over.
There's a body in it, so it's like really heavy, and like they're like, there's always valets trying to help them with it, and they're like, don't touch it.
The valet's like, ugh.
Oh, it's so heavy.
Why is there 160 pounds of this?
Okay, wait. This is my favorite suitcase memory. We went to the Cape Cod Mall and we bought like a suitcase set. So it was like you, me, and Mom, and it was that old
The
floral
tapestry?
pattern.
Yeah.
The tapestry pattern one. So there was like a giant suitcase, a medium suitcase, and a little suitcase. So we each took one and like rolled it through the mall to get back to our car. And it was so loud in there because it was like a mall and like we were like rolling on these like tiles. And these women kept like people kept looking at us and being like, what the fuck? And we're just like, la, la.
We must have looked so cute though, like a little family in their suitcases. Does Mom still have those? I love those suitcases.
I thought you did. I thought you had one of those.
No,
still.
I got my own now.
Oh. They might be.
I have
She
one
probably
with
has them.
well, I have a similar one. It's a tapestry look, but they have shoes on them, like old fashioned shoes.
Yeah. Suitcases.
Anyway,
good things.
Good times.
Good tangent. But so they show up at the Virgin Islands, stuff Bernie into the mini fridge. The spaces he has to fit in just get smaller and smaller. But yeah, now he's getting stinky, so they spray him with some deodorant, and they're like, all right, problem solved. And then, even though that's not like really how deodorant works,
Right.
And,
I know. I was like, like that's.
you have to reapply.
Well, he's not smelling bad because he's sweating. He smells bad because he's dead.
It's not
Like his flesh is rotting from the inside out. Like that's why he smells so bad.
Exactly. So then, all this time, Larry's had Bernie's credit card, so he's been spending money like crazy, whatever. So they get this like sweet villa in St. Thomas and at this like beautiful resort. There's just like beautiful women in like high cut bikinis walking around, and they're like, "This place is great." So they enjoy themselves, and Larry goes out and immediately finds himself like someone to chase after with his heart. So he picks Claudia. I was like, Cynthia? Claudia. Who's like a windsurfing instructor, or like works at the resort or something. So he asks her out on a date, and she accepts. And so he goes out on a date, and Richard stays home, like coming up with the plan to like figure out how they're going to pull off like the great Bernie hoax of 1993 or whatever. So, so Larry goes on his date. It seems like we don't know what happened like on the actual date, right? We just see him at the end of the date.
Right.
But he pulls like some bullshit scheme of like gives the cab driver money to like pretend to drive off when he told him to stay. So he's like, oh nuts, now I can't get home. So here's my question. How old is Claudia supposed to be? Because they call her girl like all the time. Mm-hmm. And then she lives with her father.
Yeah.
And Larry calls her honey like all the time. Which
like,
obviously these are all like weird issues.
Well, early 20s. I mean, we figured that even Richard and Larry were like just out of college. They were like 23. So if she's still living at home, like that kind of like still jives probably.
Yeah, that makes sense. But basically she's not having any of this. She's like, yeah, like I'm not falling for this. He sees her father's like voodoo collection. He's interested in like the occult. And then she kicks him out basically. So he goes home. He's like super drunk. Meanwhile, Richard has fallen asleep, and Hummel or whatever has ventured to St. Thomas to get like documentation of them doing wrong.
That part like made no sense at all.
Unclear what he was looking for. Like, I guess to prove that they were in cahoots with Bernie and like with the bad people or something.
Oh, because remember, like when they're like about to fire him, there was something about like Bernie's like not like his will or something like was in one of their names. Remember? And I don't forget like how that happened.
Why would it be in one of their names?
I don't know. It was like something I thought that Bernie like set up because remember like Bernie was trying to get them to take the fall for something. So he had like kind of did something within the company like administratively to set that up. And that was still in play like when they looked at the books. I forget what it was. It wasn't like life insurance or anything. Yeah, it was something.
Kind of remember that.
So anyway, he's like
pics.
suspicious of them. And has followed them, yes.
And so he's like rifling through their villa. Richard's passed out, sleeping, doesn't wake up. Meanwhile, though, like right before then, as luck would have it, there's like an all-night party on the beach where they're playing like conga music. So that like wakes up Bernie from his slumber. I find it crazy that no music played until this point.
Yeah.
But whatever. So he starts off on his little Bernie like zombie dance. And like walks right into like a conga line basically, and like joins the conga line as this dead zombie guy. Right. Super additional side plot. This woman who's like fighting with her weird husband Arnold is like mad that he won't dance with her, so she gets up to join the conga line and meets Bernie in that way and like dances with him.
Brenda.
So Richard has now woken up and joins the conga line also after he sees like a tall blonde woman with big boobs, and he's like, yes. So he's off, doesn't notice Bernie, and then that's whatever, we wake up or whatever. Bernie and Brenda like he's off because he's still trying to walk to the treasure basically. So she follows him and like is like, wait, stop, and there's this stupid tussle with her husband or whatever, and then she basically falls asleep with Bernie on the sand. Right. So next morning, Richard and Larry discover Bernie is now missing, and they're like, where the fuck could he go? And so they're on the beach and they see him sitting with this woman or like lying down. And so they like get Bernie back and they're like, why is he here? And this woman's under the impression that he was like dancing with her. So they're super confused, as you would be if someone, you know, and you know, like fucking Bernie, he's at this point, he is mute, rotting corpse, and he can still get a girl.
It's crazy.
Like she's like, he doesn't talk much, huh? He's pretty quiet. And like, he didn't say a fucking word.
Like, not
because he's dead. Like, literally not a word. Why would you be like, oh, this is fine? Not sticking around for
I know.
that.
I'm like, I mean, I think a lot these women are most time like very, very drunk, and like I hope so. And she's just trying to get back at her like meathead husband or whatever for not dancing. But yeah, I'm still really confused about why like dead Bernie Lomax is like the hottest ticket in town always.
It's so weird. And he's always dressed like really weirdly.
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, whatever. Whatever, guys. So they get him back, and now they're like, great, now we can just continue on with our plan. And they don't really think anything of it. Or they seem not to. So then they spot a trench coat in the window, and they're like, that's what we need. So it's like a weird, and I don't know if trench coats are actually built like this, but in this one, you can stick your hand in the back of it.
They are.
And your arm goes straight through to the sleeve. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have a lot
of times in those.
I don't have a lot of trenches.
Gotta get some trenches.
I mean, I have one, but I never noticed that. I'm gonna experiment with it.
I think like
right after
old
this.
school ones, maybe. I mean, I don't know if
Okay.
like
now you're redacting
but-
your your knowledge about trench coats.
I mean, was this a specially designed trench coat for this movie? Maybe, but I feel like that's like legit.
Yeah. But so Charles and Henry are now back in St. Thomas because they have to explain to the Mobu like what happened and that they fucked up and like take accountability for it because they've started braying like a goat. So now they're like, okay, I guess this is serious. So they just happen to drive by and see Bernie's corpse sitting in the back seat of an open Jeep. What a great day for them.
Yeah.
They must have been like, we hit the fucking jackpot. I mean, this whole movie is just like a series of like, you walk down the street, oh, that's just exactly what I needed. It made me think St. Thomas was like the size of one street.
Right.
I don't know.
Doubtful.
I don't know. Yeah. So they put him in the car, and then Larry and Richard see them, and they run out after them. They try to stop the guys, and then they just like pull them out of the convertible, and they take them back. So that, again, they're like not super fussed about the fact that someone would be trying to steal Bernie's body. Right. They're like, sure, whatever. So they're just like business as usual. They go to the bank. Do they pull it off? Sweetie.
Yeah, so they are able to do this ruse. Richard comes up with the idea that, because, yes, while, like, they can move him around, he's not able to talk. So they come up with this idea to have him have a toothache. They wrap up his face in a white bandage, put a hat on him, he has his sunglasses on, this trench coat, and they're able to manipulate his arms under the trench coat. But the funny thing is that, like, they have to... Like, Larry uses his left arm, which is technically like Bernie's right hand. So it's like kind of like a weird hand. So he's like signing, because he must be left-handed. Larry's left-handed. So he's like signing stuff for Bernie, and it's supposed to be his right hand, but it's actually like Larry's left hand. Like they don't catch on to that at the bank, apparently. But anyway, so this having this toothache makes it so like he just like communicates in mumbles, which they're able to do. You know, they're not ventriloquists. They can come up with
I was impressed.
a mumble. Yeah, it looked good. So they end up getting the safety deposit box, and they're like, yes, like, and it's this huge safety deposit box. If you ever like, again, I've never seen a safety deposit box, but it's in a lot of movies. So apparently this is like a thing. And like, who has one, right? You're like, okay. I feel like it's kind of an old-fashioned thing. I mean, I know they exist, but it seems like kind of old-fashioned inheritance stuff. You want to keep it safe.
Put your jewels.
Yeah, jewels and stuff. Obviously, nothing like that in our lives, but anyway. So so usually you see those, and they're like basically the size of, I don't know, like like letter size or like a little bit bigger. This is huge. So you're like, okay, so there's got to be $1 million in this box. So they open it and they're like, yes. No, there's just one slip of paper in there on the very bottom. And it's like this very crudely drawn map with weird symbols. And they're like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. Came all the way down here for this, smuggled, hung out with a dead body for days just to get this weird handwritten map. Bullshit.
Yeah, bullshit. So then they're like, okay, fuck. What do we do here? So they have the map, and then they run into Claudia.
No, so they have this.
Or do they lose Bernie again?
Yeah, so they lose Bernie again. So I don't know what. Again, seems like what you were saying before, where the scriptwriters are like, okay, we need this to happen, so we're just going to do this, which makes no sense at all. They park the car and leave his dead body in the back of the Jeep, and then go up. They're like, let's go get some conch fritters that you like love, Richard, and like leave him in the back of a Jeep. Just like
what?
Parked. Conch fritters.
Oh, conch fritters. Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like not concerned
So
at all.
they go out
about
to lunch and they
decomp
just
in a
leave
warm
the dead
environment.
body in like a tropical environment in the back of the Jeep. And like someone has already stolen the dead body. So like, hello, cover him with a blanket. Like, what are you thinking? So crazy. So then, the guys who are, working for the mob essentially come and find him and no, sorry. So that's not what happens at all. The mob guys find Richard and Larry and then kidnap them and take them to the voodoo lady. Music plays, and that's what takes Bernie out of the Jeep. He escapes from the Jeep on his own and stumbles onto the beach because he hears like steel drum band or whatever.
Loves those steel drums.
He does.
Bernie.
He does.
So yeah, they're like, where the fuck did he go? So then they take Larry and Richard to the Mobu to be like, this is who's responsible for losing Bernie or whatever. So then, yeah, she makes him drink this like potion that basically is gonna kill him if they don't get this antidote by your favorite word. Say it. Say it.
Antidote.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I forget how you what.
Anecdote is the one I was confused with.
Guys, I'm really smart. I was on Jeopardy.
Sweet confusion. Yeah. So yeah. So it's either get that or you're dead. Basically, get.
I'm
us
just gonna
Bernie
get
back.
my phone charger for 1 sec. Keep talking. I just don't want you to think I'm like I have melted
all
into
right.
a puddle.
Okay, that's very considerate. So, if they don't get Bernie or the treasure back to the Mobu / the cartel, Richard will die. So things are very dire now. So they like run. They're like back. They actually, the bad guys give them a lift back to. Oh no, I guess I was right. Okay, I was right. They do ask Claudia about the map before they get kidnapped by those guys, because the guys dropped them off at her apartment because she was like, my dad studies the occult, these are definitely voodoo symbols, like he'll tell us what they mean. So they go to her house and Richard's all like fucked up and like weird because he took the poison,
Right.
and her dad like does, I don't remember, did I miss the part where they talk to her dad?
No, they
He
don't.
was like, this
they
is what
don't.
it means?
I don't think she talks. They talk to the dad that they.
Oh.
She just is like, I'm going to give them this to my dad. He's a doctor. Like he's not always around, but like he'll look at it
They show
after
up
work.
at her house and they're like, it's our lucky day. And then I thought that was when she told them like what it meant.
It wasn't at her house. That was like at the resort. They're like coming back and they see her. And they're like, give us the map back. Like these people need it. And she's like, oh, I already gave it to my dad.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So there goes that plan. But again, the map is a red herring, because we have the more important tool, which is Bernie, who's still trying to make it to the treasure. So he's fucking like on the beach. He gets like sucked up in a parasail by accident. A shark jumps out of the water and like tries to eat him.
This is when it gets totally nutty.
It's like,
If it wasn't already nutty.
it's not like, I mean, like sharks don't want to eat like rotting dead people. So you're telling me that like anybody who's parasailing could get eaten by a shark just jumping out of the water is what that scene said to me, but whatever. No, thank you. So then they see Bernie again and they still have not seen him move yet. So there's like very confused why they found Bernie now again, lying in the sand, strapped to a parasail. How the fuck did he get here? So as luck would have it, music is playing. So Bernie starts bopping his bum and they're like, oh my God, he's moving. So then they like, I don't know how they figure this out, but do they draw the conclusion that it's voodoo? And I guess because they met the Mobu. Oh yeah. Because they know that they need to get Bernie back.
Yeah, and
So
the
they
guys
put it
had told them about the music thing.
That
the other
music,
guys.
he only walks with the music, right? So, so then Bernie's like walking into the water. So they're like, he's leading us to the treasure, but Bernie stops because he can't hear the music under the water. So at this point, Claudia's like joined them and is like, let's do this together, even though she has like no obligation in this story whatsoever. But whatever. So Larry's like, idea. And so this is one of my favorite things about 90s movies is what I like to call scuba. No biggie. It seems like anyone can just do scuba, can be a scuba. Totally. From what I understand, you need to be like certified. Mm-hmm. And maybe that wasn't a thing in the 90s, but in this movie, The Chipmunk Adventure, people just strap on this
adventure. This is one of your examples. That's amazing.
I couldn't think of another one, but they just like strap on that tank and they're like, I'm an expert at this.
I agree. I mean, anyone can snorkel. I mean, you do have to kind of like figure that out, but that's one thing you don't need like a certification for. But like you could seriously die if you do scuba because it's all about like letting enough oxygen out of your tank slow enough. And like there's a whole like science behind scubaing. Yes, I agree. So that, they shouldn't have done that in 90s movies.
Bullshit. But yeah, they follow him and like play the music so that, and do they wrap the Discman in plastic or something?
That's
or
what I didn't get. I'm like, were there waterproof Discman in 1993? Oh, okay.
In plastic.
Wow. I don't think that waterproofs it, but good for them.
Again, I don't think that's how that works. No. But so he gets the treasure, but he's like, it's as luck would have it. Larry is for some reason carrying a harpoon gun and accidentally shoots it off, and it goes through Bernie's head, and so then like kills the music. So then they're like, fuck. So then he's like clutching the box and he won't let go, I guess. Rigor mortis, I don't know. And then they float him back up to the top. He's attached to it. They have to get him back. This plot is really lengthier than I thought. And I know I'm talking about like every detail, but I think it's important for the comedic aspect. So then they like get this horse cart, whatever.
That part
like,
was so funny to me.
Really silly scene.
So then they like stumble upon this horse cart who's like a tour guide of the island, and they're like, okay, like because also Richard is like slowly dying here, so he's like fading like a flower. So like, okay, like stop the horse cart. So Claudia runs and gets it, and then they're like dragging Bernie, and everyone flips out and like screams and runs out like away from the horse cart, including the driver who hops on the horse and like hi-ho silver like hightails it out of there for like no reason at all, because they told them like our friend is sick, like we need your help. But then people were just shouting dead body
because he had an arrow through his head, and they were like dragging him on the sand. Okay, he could have made it. Could have been a prop.
So of course, like Larry has like these brilliant ideas, and so he like hitches. They put a tape. Luckily, there's a tape deck in the horse-drawn carriage, and they put in and they luckily have a tape, and they put in the tape into the horse-drawn carriage, and they hitch Bernie to the like where the horse would be, and like he's like leading the way. So at first, it's like, oh, this is so great. I'm like. Larry's like whipping him like you would a horse, and then there's this gigantic hill, and then Bernie's legs are like off of the ground, and it's just like a cart like just going crazy. And then mind you, there's no steering mechanism on this cart. Like the steering would be
brakes.
Or brakes. The steering mechanism would be the live horse that is in the front, but it's like not there.
And meanwhile, Richard and Claudia are like, slow down, Larry, slow down.
And then one of my favorite parts is like when Larry was like, bail out. And he like, you think everyone's going to like jump off, but they don't. Anyway, so they like crash the cart.
But this is my question, is that even if the horse was pulling that cart, wouldn't the same problem have happened? Because the weight of all the people, I think, is still probably more than the horse. So when you start going down such a steep hill, the momentum like from behind would like push the horse forward.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. Maybe you don't go on hills with those. Maybe
they weren't supposed to go down the hill. Maybe it was like
probably
the cart trail. They didn't stay on the cart trail.
Right. I think it was like on the beach. So as luck would have it, they like end up like careening into where like the voodoo lady was, which looks like an
I'm like
Aztec
what?
pyramid.
They ran out of time. Yeah. They're like, shit, we only have 10 minutes left.
So then like the box with all the money goes flying, opens up, and like dollar bills are all over the place. Meanwhile, it's the voodoo lady and the mafia guys. And so they're like, whoa, like crazy. The voodoo lady gets thrown back by like crashes, like the horse cart crashes into her, and she falls back, hits her head. She is a concussion. The mafia guy, then suddenly the cops arrive, like with Claudia's dad, who's the doctor.
Because we forgot to mention the 8th subplot in this movie, which is that Hummels has now, just like in the first one, keeps seeing Bernie alive, it seems, and so people think he's crazy. So they keep getting like arrested, and then he gets whatever. So they're taking him away in a police car when they drive by the horse cart, flying down the road with Bernie or whatever. So that's why that happens. But yeah, the police come, they arrest the cartel. Mm-hmm. I guess Larry and Richard get off scot-free.
Yeah.
Even though I feel like, I have questions for them. Like they're literally carting this dead body around the island.
Right. Why do you have this dead body? Who is this dead body?
Right.
Yeah, it's really weird.
But wait, what happens to the money? They keep it?
Yeah, so remember like Larry hid $1 million or so under like some palm branches, and then he put the rest in the thing, and then they did turn over the money to like authorities or whatever. So then like next scene, they're on this yacht. Larry had like rented this yacht and has the $1 million, and they're sailing to like Monaco or whatever. So bye Claudia. There's no like love interest or anything like in that, and it's just like the two guys being like, yay, like we finally got all the money after all. End scene, the end. Best movie ever.
It's so strange. But then doesn't Charles and Henry turn into goats at the end?
Oh
too?
yeah,
We
yeah.
missed?
But like, why was that again? Because the voodoo lady blew the smoke on their face in the beginning.
I guess. And like if they didn't do what she wanted or like what she liked, she could just turn them into goats. I
Okay.
guess.
Yeah.
I guess that's what happened.
Oh wait.
But, yeah.
We missed the part. So like again, Richard has like the voodoo curse on him that he's gonna die. Like once sundown, he is looking like pretty bad. So once they crash in, and the voodoo lady that is knocked out, she has a concussion, so she can't she's not gonna be able to reverse the spell. So Claudia, knows a lot about voodoo, and she had told Larry about the voodoo thing where if the person who casts a spell on you, you can reverse it and turn it onto them. It's this like whole like voodoo rules. So luckily her dad is, and this is like kind of conflicting, right? Because he's like an actual medical doctor, but he believes in voodoo too. So she's like, Dad, like I know you can do it.
Voodoo.
Yeah. So I know you can do it. Like I've seen you do it before. He's like, okay, like I can do it, but I need a blood of a virgin. So Claudia's like, ugh. And then Richard's like, ugh. And Larry's like, doot. And then he just like gives him his finger. So then it's this like whole joke about Larry being like such like a hot shot and all this like overconfident and like really he's like a virgin and like kind of like he feels like a loser. I know. So he's able to confess like his virginity status to save his friend. And Richard lives, so they end up reversing the spell, and that's how they get to the their yacht at the end.
The spell's reversed, or it's passed over to the Mobu.
I guess it got passed over to the
So then
Mobu.
she's gonna die.
I know. I feel bad, but she was kind of evil.
I mean, she was just doing what they wanted her to.
I know. Well, she got paid $100,000.
Yeah, I mean, good fucking deal.
Yep.
But yeah, sweet little flicks.
Complicated plot,
I like.
huh?
What?
Complicated plot.
No, I know. That's why I was like, I should have written the steps down.
I know.
So my favorite part on this rewatch was when they're in the city morgue and they're like prepping Bernie to like put him in the suitcase or whatever, and they're like, he doesn't have shoes. So they're like, take that guy's shoes. So there's this like dead body just like hanging out on a gurney. And it's like in the it looks like an office because there's a desk in the corner. And I was like, why is there just a dead body hanging out in the morgue? And Richard takes off the shoes, and then like the dead bodies, quote unquote, pops up and like hits their head on the. Why is your expression like you don't know what I'm talking about? Did you not remember this?
Not really.
Oh my god! And it's the morgue guy, and he was like sleeping in the office. And then Richard like freaks out. And he's like, Lair, and she's like, and I was just like dying. And he's like, it's just the morgue guy. Sad. I'm sad that guy is sleeping in there.
Yeah.
But I also.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the main scene I remember was the conga line scene. I feel like that is like very like that's very iconic for this film. That like what everyone remembers, where it's like he like gets up and starts dancing, and then like there's that whole fight with the couple, and then she's like, I'm gonna do the conga line, and then like he joins in, and I don't know, I just like remember he's like hiding in a bush or something, and he like pops up and is like suddenly the best dancer on the party. I just think it's funny.
Wait, Bernie?
Yeah.
Oh,
Bernie.
yeah. Oh, right, because they're like, one last song. Yeah. I remember, that scene definitely. I remember the voodoo ritual where they have to do like all this stuff. They like throw these chicken bones, like the bone toss, and then they like say some stuff. Light 117 candles. And what I love about that scene is that like all the candles are already like all the way melted.
Yes.
And, like super melted. And you're like, how long have these candles been burning? And my other favorite thing is that when the chicken escapes and they're looking for it, they spend like, I don't know, 15 minutes. But meanwhile, the bathroom's just gone unattended with like 117 candles and a chalk circle and like chicken bones. Like goat's blood. I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, I remember that beginning part so well. I remember the spray deodorant because he smelled bad. And I remember being like, ew, because like he smelled bad and they were touching him and like shoving him into the fridge. Yeah. And then Larry like grabs a bag of chips and starts eating them like with his like dead body hands.
Dead body hands.
Maybe we're just like so conscious of health, like sanitation now. We're like, no.
I know, totally. Wait, I was just gonna say something about that. Wait, what did you say before that?
I don't know, the mini bar. Were you gonna talk about mini bars?
I just had like a thought.
Chips. He's eating the chips. They stick them in the spray deodorant. Chicken bones. I don't know. So those are all the words I said just now.
Damn, I forgot.
Okay. Well, we tried. So, I mean, yeah, what else? What other insights did you want to talk about? The beach, the bikini scene at the end?
Oh, yeah. Good times. So, yeah, I did not realize that there's titties in this film, guys. Titties. Nipples, to be precise. One kind of perky nip is kind of what's all that showed, and like a tan line. But I had to double check. This movie's rated PG. Whoa. PG with titties in it? I feel like that's really
crazy.
inappropriate. I know. So it's like the scene where Bernie gets his leg caught in a parasail, and the kind of slapstick joke is that he gets dragged and like up into the, sky with the parasail, but on the way up he is dragging his hands, and these two girls are laying on towels, and then he like rips off their bikinis. So they're like lying down, so they have kind of like flat boobs and stuff, but one of them, it's like a surefire nipple that you can see. It was shocking. It was shocking.
Well, because then she runs up to him.
Right. And you see a little again.
And she's covering like both of her boobs with one hand. And then it's like, oh no, I have to move all of my hands to get the bathing suit off. And so that then her boobs are like out again. Yeah. So you're like, ew. But did you find that funny or gross or what? Why did you want to talk about it?
Oh, because I just like, it was just shocking that this is like a PG rated film and there's boobs in it. I don't know.
There's a lot more like ogling of goodies in this one than the first one, I think. Like they even say the word tits. They're like, look at the tits on that one.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. Yeah. And then there's like the gross Hummel guys like taking pictures like sneakily of like girls' butts.
I know.
And you're like,
that's
ew.
really gross.
So it was a little skeezy. But yeah. And then I guess, the other 90s thing to me that stood out was windsurfing. I feel like that was big in the 90s.
Parasailing?
I just remember, no, windsurfing.
Well, it's called parasailing.
No, windsurfing, when you're on the board and then you have the thing.
You're talking about the other sport that's on the water. Yes, yes, yes.
Like,
I'm like, it's
so
parasailing, sweety. Get it right or pay the price.
Oh my God. Obviously, I know what it is. But yeah, there's some other 90s. There's like this Disney original movie called Stepsister from Planet Weird where there's windsurfing and that. And like maybe it was just because we didn't have lakes or something. Or like
I haven't seen a windsurfer in a good 15 years.
Never seen a windsurfer. Right. Okay, yeah. It's passe.
Here's something that's so 90s. There's the part that like kind of weird subplot where the guy from the firm, the Barry Bottswick character, comes down and keeps seeing Bernie, so he's kind of going crazy, and he like goes to the police station. The guy's like, I think you're like, you have to like quit this, like you're suffering a nervous breakdown. And I feel like that was such a term for like a blanket anxiety kind of thing that was used in the 90s. And now like we do not use that term at all. It seems like so dated to be like, you're having a nervous breakdown. Like it's like stress is just like dealt with so differently now. And it's not like a blanket thing. True. And also like everyone has anxiety, not even just from this like moment in time, but like it's just anxiety is just treated so differently.
So explain this to me. So he tells him, you're having a nervous breakdown. You need to take it easy, relax. So his solution is to go on a submarine ride?
Worst nightmare, claustrophobia? What?
I was just thinking about it, and I was like, oh, my God.
I know.
Like, I don't know. It just, like, really stressed me out. And he's, like, trying to break free from it. I'm like, what do you think you're going to accomplish? You're going to, like, open the door and just safely swim to freedom? Like, that's not how submarines work.
I know.
It's not how it works. I don't think I would want to be in a submarine. I don't think I ever have any desire.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't need to see the ocean from that level. I'm good. I've seen the ocean.
I'm not James Cameron. But yeah, that's all I had.
Okay,
I
have one more thing to say.
Okay.
So remember, they get into the hotel room and, as you said, Bernie smells because he's been decomposing. So they like spray him with deodorant. But in their brilliant idea, let's put him in the mini fridge. So they like chuck a bunch of stuff out of it, and like Larry's like, fruit, like don't need it, and he like the bottles that are in there, and the bottles were clearly Canadian. Do you remember those? I
Yeah,
know.
we've talked about that before. You were obsessed with that.
So
Oh, I wish
like,
I'd seen that.
oh my god, I could like taste them when I saw the bottle. I was like, oh, the raspberry.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So good. And we used to get them at the Superette. Do you remember? Like, I remember
so.
where they were, like, so the Superette was like a little convenience store that we would bike to as kids. And I like remember where they were in the Superette. Man, I miss those. I mean, what were they? Flavored what? I mean, it was like flavored seltzer, but like sweet.
But with sugar. And
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
what you get for seltzer in the UK.
Yeah.
It's like they don't have just water that's
Flavored.
that's
They have seltzer, plain seltzer, but not flavored. Yeah. Flavored seltzer. Like Polar here really is the market.
They appear to still be making clearly Canadian.
Oh, that's
Which
crazy.
is exciting.
I'd like to taste one and see if it's like good or not.
Yeah, let's
good,
try
you know?
to seek one out, and we'll do an Instagram story.
Yeah.
I think that's a good experiment. Okay, cool, good one. That must have been. That's what you were trying to remember when I was talking about.
Maybe that was
scene.
it. Yeah.
Because I was talking about the chips. He's getting chips from.
Oh
the
yeah.
mini
Oh yeah.
ones.
This is this is the one I loved. Okay. What is this? What is this one? Blue. What is this like? Blue. Oh, blackberry. Blackberry is the one I loved. Oh, they have cherry. That's weird. Yeah, I love the blackberry one. So good. Interesting. I'd love to try one. Let's get a case.
Yeah. Whoa. It's commitment. But yeah, good times. Great flicks. If you have seen Weekend at Bernie's too, and you would like to talk about it, you come find us on Twitter at the Sweetie Club or on Instagram at Large Marge. Send us. Thank you as always for listening. Bye.
Bye. Brave artist.